The echo of a sharp, mocking voice filled the pristine lobby of Mercy Haven Children's Hospital. Heads turned, conversations halted, even the hum of the reception computers seemed to fade into silence. Well, well, look who decided to crawl back. The words came from Vanessa Caldwell, wife of the hospital's most respected pediatric cardiologist. Her tone was laced with venom, pitched loud enough for every parent, nurse, and patient in the waiting area to hear. Amara Johnson, a 23-year-old nursing aide, froze in her tracks. Her arms instinctively tightened around the small bundle she carried, her 4-month-old son, Ethan. His tiny chest rose and fell against her own, oblivious to the hostile eyes now fixed on them. Vanessa's heels clicked across the polished tiles as she advanced, her designer purse swaying at her side like a weapon. "This," she announced theatrically, pointing straight at Amara and the baby, "is the girl who tried to trap my husband with a child that isn't even his." The audience in the lobby gasped collectively, curiosity and judgment instantly replacing the casual boredom of waiting for appointments. Standing just behind Vanessa was Dr. Charles Caldwell, the man who had once whispered promises to Amara in the quiet of his office, telling her he would take care of her, that he would leave his wife and help raise their child. But now, in front of the world, he kept his gaze firmly on the marble floor, his lips pressed tightly shut. His silence cut deeper than Vanessa's accusations. A nurse muttered under her breath, "Same story again, young girl, older doctor scandal, they never learn." Amara's pulse raced, but her expression remained calm. She shifted Ethan slightly, making sure his breathing stayed steady. She would not give Vanessa the satisfaction of seeing her break down. "Mrs. Caldwell," she said softly but clearly enough for the room to hear, "I didn't come here to cause trouble. I came for Ethan's appointment. He has a minor heart defect and it needs to be monitored." "Heart defect?" Vanessa let out a cruel laugh. "How convenient. What's next? You'll be saying he needs emergency surgery so you can squeeze money out of my husband? Spare us the sob story. Everyone here knows exactly what kind of girl you are." The words struck like daggers, but Amara did not flinch. She had grown accustomed to venom. Her own family had turned their backs on her when they discovered she was pregnant by a married man. Yet beneath her composed exterior something was ticking quietly. A secret. Because what no one in that lobby knew was that tucked carefully inside Ethan's diaper bag was a small voice recorder. Every word Vanessa spat, every denial from Charles, every prejudice whispered in judgment, it was all being documented. "I have nowhere to go," Amara whispered, more to herself than anyone else. Her voice cracked just enough to pierce the hearts of a few onlookers. "But Ethan, he needs this care." And then, a new voice cut through the tense air like a blade. "I believe I can help with that." Every head in the lobby swiveled. Standing just a few feet away was Alexander Pierce, a man whose very presence demanded attention. Tall, sharply dressed, and with an aura of controlled authority, Pierce was no stranger to the city's elite. As one of the wealthiest businessmen in the state and a major benefactor of Mercy Haven, his name carried more weight than the hospital's own board of trustees. Vanessa blinked, caught off guard. Charles straightened suddenly, his entire demeanor shifting into one of forced politeness. "Mr. Pierce," Charles said quickly, "we weren't expecting you here today." Alexander's piercing gaze moved slowly from Vanessa to Charles and finally to Amara. He studied her carefully, noting the protective way she held Ethan, the steadiness in her eyes despite the public humiliation. "And what exactly is happening here?" Alexander asked, his tone low but commanding. "Because from where I stand, it looks like a mother with an ill child is being cornered in the middle of a hospital lobby." Vanessa forced a laugh. "Oh, Mr. Pierce, you misunderstand. This girl is nothing more than a manipulator. She's been trying to blackmail my husband, claiming that child is his. It's pathetic, really. These people always find ways to leech off successful men." The phrase hung in the air, "these people." Alexander's eyes sharpened. He repeated the words slowly as if tasting their ugliness. "These people." Amara didn't speak. She had learned to listen more than she spoke. She had learned that silence could sometimes scream louder than words. Charles quickly tried to redirect the conversation. "Perhaps, Mr. Pierce, we could step into my office and discuss the pediatric wing donation you wanted to finalize." Actually, Alexander interrupted firmly, I'd like to hear more about this child's case. After all, my financial contributions ensure this hospital provides quality care to every patient, regardless of background. The lobby grew even quieter, as if the walls themselves were listening. Vanessa faltered, her smile brittle. Mr. Pierce, surely there are bigger issues than this. Alexander's expression hardened. Are you suggesting a child's health is not important, or are you suggesting it's less important because of who his mother is? The words were knives cloaked in velvet, and everyone heard them. Finally, Amara's voice, quiet yet steady, broke the silence. My son Ethan, he was born with a small ventricular septal defect. It's treatable, but it needs attention. Dr. Caldwell promised to take care of him. Special circumstances, Vanessa interjected with a bitter laugh. She means the blackmail scheme. She's been trying to break up our family. But Amara did not look at Vanessa. Her eyes were fixed firmly on Charles, her voice steady as steel. I'm referring to the promises you made, Charles. You told me you would leave your wife, you said we would raise Ethan together, and now you stand here and pretend not to know us. The silence that followed was suffocating. Charles's face drained of color. Vanessa turned to him, horror dawning in her eyes. Charles, her voice shook, tell me she's lying. Alexander leaned slightly forward, his keen eyes taking in every twitch of Charles's face, every bead of sweat forming at his temple. Years of business had trained him to recognize a liar, and Charles was unraveling fast. Vanessa, she's making it up, Charles stammered. She's just trying to extort us, you can't believe her. Amara adjusted Ethan gently, her movements calm. Then she spoke again, her voice cutting like glass. I have the messages, Charles, all of them, including the one from 3 weeks ago when you begged me to give you more time before you told Vanessa the truth. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Vanessa staggered backward as if she had been struck. 3 weeks ago, she whispered. Charles, what is she talking about? Alexander's eyes gleamed with interest. He wasn't just watching a scandal unfold, he was watching a carefully built facade collapse in real time. And Amara, despite being the one most wronged, stood as steady as stone. She had prepared for this. She had endured the whispers, the shame, the betrayal. And now the storm was finally beginning to break in her favor. What Vanessa and Charles didn't know was that this confrontation wasn't just about a baby or a broken promise. It was about justice. The walls of Mercy Haven Hospital's private conference room seemed to close in with the tension. What had begun as a humiliating spectacle in the lobby had now turned into something far more dangerous, a battle of truth versus reputation. At the long mahogany table sat Dr. Charles Caldwell, sweat clinging to his forehead despite the room's cool air. His wife, Vanessa, perched stiffly beside him, her fingers clutching the edge of her chair like claws digging into prey. Across from them, calm yet commanding, was Alexander Pierce, the man whose fortune kept Mercy Haven's lights on, and between them all sat Amara Johnson, her baby Ethan sleeping peacefully in the stroller at her side. The irony wasn't lost on her. Here she was, a young single mother who everyone thought would crumble under humiliation, now holding the power to unravel one of the most respected doctors in the city. Charles forced a strained smile. Mr. Pierce, he began, his tone oozing false confidence, surely you see what's happening here. This young woman is attempting to smear my name to exploit my position. It's nothing more than a calculated attempt at extortion. Alexander leaned back, steepling his fingers. Extortion, he repeated slowly. Interesting word, and yet what I see is a mother who walked into a hospital for her child's treatment and was ambushed in public. Tell me, Dr. Caldwell, is public humiliation standard hospital procedure these days? Vanessa jumped in quickly. Mr. Pierce, please, you must understand the type of girl she is. They come from nothing, latch onto successful men and spin stories. She's trying to ruin a good man's career. My husband is respected, loved. He saved countless children's lives. Amara finally spoke, her voice calm but edged with steel. Respect doesn't erase betrayal. Love doesn't excuse lies. She turned her gaze directly on Charles, her dark eyes steady. Do you want me to read the messages, Charles, or would you like me to play the recordings? The word recording struck like thunder. Charles visibly flinched. Vanessa's head snapped toward him. Recordings, she repeated, her voice breaking. What recordings? Amara calmly reached into Ethan's diaper bag and placed a small digital recorder on the table. The soft click of plastic against wood echoed in the room like a gavel slamming down in court. I learned very early, Amara said, her voice low and deliberate, that when you're a young black woman with no family name, no money, and no one to protect you, your words mean nothing against people with power. So I stopped relying on words alone. She pressed the recorder's button. A crackle of static filled the room, followed by a familiar male voice. Charles's voice. I need more time to tell Vanessa everything. You and Ethan are my priority, just hold on a little longer. The room froze, Vanessa's hand flew to her mouth, Charles's face drained of all color. Alexander's expression didn't change, but his eyes sharpened with quiet interest. Would you like me to continue? Amara asked softly. No, Charles burst out, his voice desperate. It's out of context, it means nothing. Nothing, Vanessa's voice cracked as she turned on him. Charles, that's your voice, you said her child is your priority, how is that nothing? Vanessa, she's manipulating the audio. Amara cut him off, her tone even colder now. Then explain the one from December 28th in your office. Before Charles could protest, she pressed another button. His voice filled the room again. It would be better for everyone if you just got rid of the problem before questions start about a mixed-race baby in the hospital. Vanessa gasped as though struck. The color drained from her cheeks. Alexander's jaw tightened, his gaze boring into Charles with a look that could shatter glass. Mixed-race baby, Alexander repeated quietly. His words were calm, but the fury beneath them was unmistakable. That's how you described your own patient. Charles's hands shook. I didn't mean it like that. Amara's voice cut through him like a knife. You meant it exactly like that, and I recorded every word, not just one conversation. 17. Vanessa's chair screeched against the floor as she shot to her feet. 17, she screamed, her voice breaking into shards. 17 conversations? Charles, how long has this been going on? How long have you been lying to me? Charles tried to stand, reaching for her hand, but she yanked away as if his touch were poison. Vanessa, listen to me, it was a mistake, a weakness, she trapped me. A weakness that lasted half a year, Amara's voice was cold, merciless. A weakness that produced a child you swore you would care for. Alexander leaned forward finally, his voice low but thundering with authority. Dr. Caldwell, I've spent decades building businesses. Do you know what I can always smell? A man whose empire is built on lies, and you reek of it. Charles's mask cracked, his hands trembled, sweat trickled down his temples. Please, Mr. Pierce, you can't let her ruin me, my career. Your career? Vanessa spat. What about our marriage? What about my dignity? You humiliated me in front of strangers, attacked her in public while hiding this betrayal in private. Amara adjusted Ethan in his stroller, her movements steady, deliberate. She wasn't just exposing Charles, she was dismantling him, brick by brick. And Alexander Pierce was watching every detail, nodding her composure, her timing, the precision with which she revealed each piece of evidence. She wasn't some desperate young woman clinging to lies, she was orchestrating something greater. Finally, Amara leaned back, her voice soft but deadly. Charles, you underestimated me, you thought I'd beg that I'd hide, but you forgot I was studying investigative journalism before Ethan was born. You trained to hide hearts, I trained to uncover lies, and I didn't stop when you tried to silence me. I documented everything, every broken promise, every slur, every discriminatory act I watched you commit against patients who trusted you. The silence that followed was suffocating. Alexander's eyes narrowed, documented. Amara met his gaze firmly. 17 recordings of my conversations with Dr. Caldwell, 53 recordings of patients denied care, 28 internal emails that prove systemic bias, and photographs of children of color pushed into underfunded wards while others received priority treatment. The weight of her words hit the room like a tidal wave. Charles slumped in his chair, his career unraveling before his eyes. Vanessa's fury melted into something else, grief, betrayal so deep it left her trembling. And Alexander Pierce. For the first time, his lips curved into the faintest trace of a smile, not of amusement, but of recognition. He had spent his life clawing his way out of poverty, watching the privileged step on the vulnerable. And now, sitting across from him was a young mother who had taken every weapon meant to destroy her and turned it into ammunition. "Ms. Johnson," Alexander said finally, his voice steady and resonant, "I think you and I need to have a very serious conversation about Ethan's future, about this hospital's future, and about how truth like yours doesn't just expose corruption, it reshapes it." Amara said nothing. She simply placed her hand gently over Ethan's stroller and looked Charles dead in the eyes. For the first time since the confrontation began, he looked away. Because he knew. He had already lost. The minutes that followed inside Jonathan Miller's sleek black Mercedes felt like hours. The air was heavy, filled with silence except for the occasional rattle of the car's engine as it idled in the dark parking lot. 7-year-old Maya sat stiffly in the backseat, her wide, fearful eyes glued to the tinted window. Jonathan, hands gripping the steering wheel, stole quick glances at her through the rearview mirror. She had commanded him to stay quiet. A billionaire used to giving instructions, not taking them, found himself strangely obeying the trembling voice of a little girl. Finally, unable to contain himself any longer, Jonathan leaned slightly toward the back. "Maya," he whispered softly, careful not to startle her, "why did you tell me to stay quiet? What's going on?" Her lips trembled, her tiny hands clutched her small backpack so tightly that her knuckles whitened. For a moment she said nothing. Then, in a voice barely louder than a whisper, she finally spoke. "He'll hear us if you talk," she said. "Please, just listen, please." Jonathan's stomach tightened. "He'll hear us who?" Before Jonathan could ask another question, movement flickered across the far side of the empty parking lot. A tall figure emerged from the shadows, a man in a dark hoodie, face obscured, walking slowly toward them. The way the man moved, deliberate and heavy, sent chills down Jonathan's spine. Maya instantly ducked down, pressing her small body against the leather seat, heart racing. "That's him," she whispered, tears pooling in her eyes. "That's the man, don't let him see me." Jonathan's pulse spiked. He understood now. This wasn't just a random child hiding in his car. This was a terrified little girl running from someone dangerous. The hooded man stopped a few feet away, scanning the lot as though searching for something or someone. Then his gaze shifted toward Jonathan's Mercedes. Jonathan's instincts screamed. Without thinking, he quickly started the engine, the low growl echoing in the silence. He pulled the gear into drive, his hands trembling slightly. The man took a step forward, but Jonathan pressed harder on the accelerator, steering the car out of the lot and onto the main road. Maya remained hunched low, sobbing softly, until the figure disappeared into the darkness behind them. When they were finally far enough away, Jonathan slowed the car and parked by the roadside under a dim street lamp. He turned to face the little girl, his voice firm but gentle. "Maya, listen to me, you're safe now, but I need to know what's happening. Who is that man?" Maya sniffled, wiping her nose with the back of her hand. She hesitated before speaking. Her voice cracked as she let out the truth. "He's the one who hurt my mom." Jonathan froze. "What do you mean?" Maya took a shaky breath. "My mom works late at the diner. He started coming around watching us. One night he followed us home. He said if my mom didn't give him money, he would take me away. Last night he tried to break into our apartment." Her small frame shook as fresh tears rolled down her cheeks. "Mom told me to run. She told me to hide in the parking lot until she came, but she never came." Jonathan's chest tightened with anger and sorrow. He had heard stories like this before, but hearing it from a trembling child sitting in his car hit him differently. His wealth, his status, his billions, all of it felt meaningless compared to the raw fear in this little girl's eyes. "Maya," he said softly, reaching back a hand, "you did the right thing by hiding, and you did the right thing by telling me. I promise you I'm not going to let anything happen to you." For the first time since entering his car, Maya lifted her gaze and met his eyes. There was a fragile glimmer of hope in them, as though she wanted desperately to believe him. Jonathan knew he couldn't handle this alone. He grabbed his phone and dialed Detective Harris, an old friend from college who now worked for the city's police department. The line rang, then clicked. "Harris here." "Marcus, it's Jonathan," he said quickly, glancing at Maya. "Listen, I need your help. I have a child in my car. She's in danger. There's a man following her, threatening her and her mother. Where can I meet you right now?" The detective's tone sharpened instantly. Bring her to the precinct, I'll have a team ready, we'll keep her safe and figure this out. Don't go back home, don't stop anywhere public, just come straight here. Jonathan nodded even though Harris couldn't see him. I'm on my way. He hung up and looked at Maya. We're going somewhere safe, okay? Somewhere with people who can protect you. She nodded timidly, though fear still lingered on her small face. By the time they reached the precinct, dawn was beginning to break. The pale morning light spilled across the city streets as Jonathan pulled into the station's secured lot. 2 officers were already waiting outside. Maya clung tightly to Jonathan's hand as they walked inside. Despite being a billionaire, Jonathan had never felt the weight of responsibility as much as he did in that moment. Detective Harris met them in the lobby. A tall man with a sharp jawline and kind eyes, Harris crouched down to Maya's level. Hey there, he said gently. You must be Maya, you're safe here, okay? No one's going to hurt you anymore. Maya hesitated, then slowly nodded. While an officer led Maya to a safe room for some warm food and comfort, Harris pulled Jonathan aside. You did the right thing calling me, we'll track down this guy, and we'll find her mother too. If what the girl says is true, we need to move fast. Jonathan exhaled deeply, tension easing slightly from his shoulders. Hours passed as the police began their investigation. Maya remained close to Jonathan, almost refusing to leave his side. It surprised him how quickly he felt protective of her. For years, he had buried himself in work, distancing himself from personal relationships after his divorce. He thought he was done with family life, done with connections that made him vulnerable. But now, watching this little girl bravely sip hot chocolate with trembling hands, something in his heart stirred. At one point, Maya looked up at him and whispered, "Thank you for not leaving me." Jonathan swallowed hard. You don't have to thank me, Maya, anyone would have helped you. But deep down, he knew that wasn't true, not everyone would have, many would have ignored her, and the thought unsettled him. By mid-afternoon, the police returned with news. They had arrested the hooded man. Evidence confirmed his threats against Maya's mother, who was found injured but alive in her apartment. She had been taken to the hospital and was asking for her daughter. When Maya heard this, she jumped up, eyes shining with relief. Can I see her, please? Detective Harris smiled. Of course, we'll take you there right now. Jonathan offered to drive them. Soon, Maya was reunited with her mother, clinging to her tightly in the hospital room. Tears of joy flowed freely as mother and daughter embraced. Jonathan quietly stepped back, giving them space. A deep sense of fulfillment washed over him. He hadn't just stumbled into this situation, he had been meant to be there, meant to help. Later, as he left the hospital, Jonathan reflected on everything that had happened. The billionaire who once lived only for boardrooms and profits now realized how empty it all was compared to the value of protecting and uplifting another human being. Maya had changed him. That night in the parking lot had changed him. From that day forward, Jonathan decided to use more of his wealth and influence to help children like Maya, children trapped in fear, needing protection, needing hope. And in his heart, he knew this was only the beginning of a new chapter in his life. And so, what started as a quiet night in a corporate parking lot turned into a life-changing moment for a billionaire and a brave little girl who refused to give up. Jonathan Miller learned that sometimes the most powerful voice isn't the one in the boardroom, but the trembling voice of a child who simply says, "Shut up, don't make a sound." It's a reminder that no matter how powerful or wealthy we are, our humanity is measured in how we respond to those in need. Now, over to you, our amazing viewers. Where are you watching this story from? Drop your country or city in the comments, we'd love to know. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss more inspiring stories like this.